Have you ever found your trust has been broken by someone? The breaking of trust can cause deep pain in a person's life. At the same time, since none of us are perfect, we will all fail to be trustworthy at different points to different levels. We do not want to be in an isolated place where we feel like we cannot trust anyone because every person in our lives could potentially let us down, as that could dramatically reduce our quality of life. This is particularly important since humans have group instincts. In this video, we'll look at 3 areas of trust for life improvements: modelling trustworthiness, separating from the untrustworthy, building and rebuilding trust. Modelling trustworthiness. Let's have a think about why it is important that we are an example of being someone who can be trusted. If we are not to be trusted, then people will not want to be around us. By how we show we are trustworthy, we give an example to others of how we want another person to be trustworthy in return. We often come back to the idiom of birds of a feather flock together. Would you rather belong to a group of people that are untrustworthy, or would you rather belong to a group of people that they can trust you and you can trust them? Would you rather become someone who is trustworthy or become someone untrustworthy based on who you spend time with? So what does being trustworthy mean? We can look at this in different contexts. We can look at it in terms of what we say and do. Are our words consistent? Do we do what we say we will? Do we tell the truth? These are some of the ingredients to being trustworthy. However, they are not the complete picture, because all of those things could be true and someone still be not someone you would trust. Let's say, for example, someone said something horrible. They told you they were quite happy to say it when you were not there as well. There is consistency, telling the truth as well, but would you want a friend like that? I know I wouldn't. So another part of trustworthiness then is someone who desires good for us and is friendly most of the time. Whilst occasionally an uncomfortable truth might be needed as something beneficial, if uncomfortable truths are said most of the time, then that just makes someone horrible. Another important aspect of trustworthiness is character. What do we do with the things people say to us? Another thing we want to model is when to speak and when not to speak on something. If we are uncomfortable talking about an area in our own lives, then we can show that by making it clear information is personal. Or we can model it by choosing not to talk about the same type of information from one person to a different person. There is a balance with this, where not mentioning that something could be harmful to someone else should probably be mentioned. Let's say a friend is talking to you, they are looking in your direction as you are walking and talking, and they're about to walk into a lamppost. Then it would definitely be worth saying something. There are many different examples and situations with varying degrees of importance and complexity. However, we can see, even with these examples, both modelling when to speak and not to speak is important. We want others to treat us in a particular way, and so we model that both in how we treat others and how we communicate to others. Since we will want people in our lives who are trustworthy, then it makes sense that we would want to show our own trustworthiness to others. Since this is the case, we also don't want our own trustworthiness taken for granted. This is why considering who we trust is important. Separating from the untrustworthy. There can be many reasons for our own safety, peace of mind, and many other factors can be important to keep ourselves separate from untrustworthy people. Ultimately, all roads lead to our time is finite, and we want to use it in the best way we can. When thinking about untrustworthiness, there are different degrees. People as individuals have varying degrees of trustworthiness in different areas. It is highly possible to have a friend who is fine for doing a hobby with, but they may not be the best person to give advice on moving to a different location. Alternatively, you may have someone who can be trusted to give great advice on if to move to a different location or not, but their understanding of health and nutrition could be lacking. So in other words, to help us with our own life improvements, we should see trust in the context of both the abilities and limitations of other people when it comes to how close and therefore how regularly we keep other people in our lives. If we know areas where people are and are not worth trusting, it can help us in how we prioritize our time with various relationships in our lives. This can be a great help when we consider our own life goals within the context of our own social lives. Another aspect of untrustworthiness is who to completely be separate from. Depending on the level of impact on us, there could be people that we just need to ensure are never in our lives. There are other people that, whilst there is some deep hurt and betrayal, we believe there is not just being sorry for what they have done, but a level of demonstration of change in them to show they are actually taking steps to ensure whatever it was doesn't happen again. They have shown evidence that they value the friendship. One of the biggest and common things that has a massive impact on trust is gossip. If someone is a friend and they talk about things you don't want other people knowing, then they will be someone to keep a distance from. Generally, people who are serial gossipers will gossip to you about other people. It is an easy sign. If someone makes noticeable effort not to talk about other people, then that is far better when it comes to trust. There are some people that are continually untrustworthy. They always say one thing and do another. The way we are treated by such people could give us a repeated pattern of hurt in some way. These are the types of people to keep out of our lives. By doing so, we can regain emotional energy, more headspace for the things we actually want to improve about our lives. Building and rebuilding trust. We can think of trust like a set of building blocks. In order to build trust, we need to take opportunities to show we are trustworthy. And we also need to give opportunities so other people can show us they are trustworthy. We can do this with increasing amounts over time at a speed that is comfortable for us and the person we are getting to know. By doing this, it means we can have good levels of trust for the type of relationship we have and want to develop. Since we are all human, we will all let each other down at various points. One-on-one relationships have two sides. So the questions we need to be clear on is if we are willing to make the changes to rebuild trust with others when needed. And is the other person willing to do that with us? With trust, there are words, emotions, including tone of voice and actions. Some people may have a bad attitude, lack of care in their tone of voice when they say sorry. Others may have the right tone. What they say sounds great, but don't have the action. All need to come together in ever-increasing increments for a rebuilding process to occur. Let's say one person we knew stole money from us to put on horse racing. The person saying sorry when we caught them, we may not feel like we could trust them. Sorry may not feel like enough for that person to be trusted. Let's say they were allowed nowhere near our belongings. They then went and got help to stop spending money on racing horses. They then took up a different hobby that didn't require wasting lots of money. The person then earned the money and gave it back to us. Even this might not be enough, but in this example, there are steps of rebuilding blocks of trust. This means trust is an essential ingredient for keeping people in our lives that are actually valuable to us. By applying these things, we can restore situations where people have let us down, we have let them down, but there are valuable relationships that can be kept. We can remove the people who are very bad for our lives and gain trusted relationships with different levels of trust and proximity to enrich our lives. By applying principles discussed in this video, we can enhance the social elements of our lives, free ourselves up to improve our lives, and not be weighed down by people that are just continually bad for us. As I have learned to improve in being trustworthy, and I have built a set of different relationships based on trust, I have been able to achieve my own personal goals better. As you become more trustworthy and build trusted relationships, you will also improve your own life through trust. In freeing yourself from horrible people, your own energy levels can then be placed into other improvements you want to make. Like birds of a feather, we grow together.